Happy Mushoku Mondays, everybody. Welcome back to yet another Trek the Mushoku Tensei Jobless Reincarnation novel series. We're on volume 25, chapter Interlude, The Armor, Part 2. B. All that kind of stuff. Yes, for those that missed last week, Mushoku Monday, we did do the first part of Interlude, The Armor. I kind of stated early on that I assumed that it was going to be an extremely long chapter to get through, along with coming right after chapter 9 with the big reveal of Badigadi and Geese showing up to go take on Rudius, all that stuff. I figured it was going to be a really long recording, and so we're splitting up Interlude the Armor into 2 segments, so we'll get into that in a minute. But before we get into that, thank you guys so much for dropping by for the premiere. Hey, chat, I hope you guys doing well. I hope you guys have a great Monday after Mushoku Monday. But yes, as per usual, greatly appreciate you guys' kind words, your support, all that stuff. And yes, as per usual, greatly appreciate everybody that supports channel monetarily through Patreon, tips, links, super thanks, memberships, all that stuff. It means a great deal to me. Since I am pre-recording this before the last Mushoku Monday of this Mushoku Monday, I'm going to have to summon once again VoiceOver Kun in order to give my thanks out for everybody that supports the channel. So take it away, VoiceOver Kun. We got Noah with a massive super. Thank you so much, Noah, for your ongoing support. It means so much to me. Tristan with a super and an amazing shout out. Thank you so much. Bulbous the super. Thank you. And Roy's Moist with a super. You're amazing. Thank you. It means so much to me. I hope there's not a week where I do that. Nobody super chats. I'm literally like, all right, let's do this. And suddenly it's just nothing. I'm sorry. This is VoiceOver Kun. You got nothing, Andrew. It's going to be so freaking great. Anyways, with that all said, let's just get right back into it. We got to get into some heat. I technically have already pre-recorded this before recording this segment in order to intro into it. I got a little heated around Badigadi and my frustration with trying to understand Badigadi, but it's a lot of fun. So with that said, let's dive into it. Interlude, The Armor, Part B. What lay behind the door in the deepest part of the labyrinth was its guardian. When they opened it, a battle of the most powerful monster of the labyrinth would begin. The level of the guardian of the Devil Cave would go beyond Badigadi's wildest imagination. Geese would have been told how to beat it. It might have been a hard fight, but they'd emerge victorious in the end. Badigadi suddenly lost his desire to laugh. "What's up, bud? Haven't lost your nerve, have you?" "Yes." Geese turned to stare at him. "Hey now, what's wrong? I can't be hearing this from you. Yeah, we're about to face the guardian of this hellhole labyrinth. I get it. We gotta take that seriously. But you're an immortal demon king, right? Like you've got anything to fear." Geese always put on a joking voice when he was trying to persuade someone. Then when the moment came, he gets serious and stabbed his words right into its mark's heart. Apparently, this was his brand of charm. Don't tell me you're actually intimidated." Badigadi was not. He was an immortal demon. He had nothing to fear and wouldn't die. Behold. Behind him, death was everywhere. Flames erupting out of nowhere. Never-ending earthquakes. Cracks in the ground swallowed everything on the surface. Falling about that space were undead, broken bones, ghosts that vanished like mist, and scattered pieces of blackened armor. "Yeah, well, it's a hellhole. If you got this far fighting proper-like, that'd be a story to hand down for generations. Only this time, well, I can't tell anyone. And even if I did, no one'd believe it." "This place makes me nostalgic." "Sorry? You what now? You mean you've been here before?" "Indeed, but not this place." It had been the day the Second Great Human-Demon War ended. In order to rescue Kishirika, Badigadi donned the fighting god armor and returned to the demon's headquarters. It was then he saw it. Because of incredibly high concentration of mana in front of Kishirika's new castle, everyone who died there became undead before an hour had passed. Badigadi knew the faces of all of them. They were true warriors who'd pledged their loyalty to Kishirika and had their power recognized by her personal guard. Badi expected they fought prepared to die, but in the end, all had fallen to the same sword. Badi knew, because they'd all been turned into headless Dullahens. Visible vestiges of them had been left in the undead Badi faced. He saw many of the same face. These undead had been generated as copies. Now that he had thought about it, the whole labyrinth had been familiar. First there had been the stone spiral staircase, then the structure like the inside of a fort, the room with a ceiling that shone as though it was full of stars, the weapons held by the man-shaped monster, the fractures in the collapsed exterior wall, the little flowers that no longer grew anywhere but here, where they bloomed at the side of the path. The monsters that were supposed to be extinct. He'd seen it all before, a strong sense of deja vu. To quell his anxiety, Badigadi sat down. This is all interesting. And it makes me wonder, like, yeah, we get to find out who the actual guardian is himself, but it kind of makes me wonder just how all this was created. It says these are generated copies. The undead had been generated as copies. Nothing has implied so far that things are sort of spawned, but more so that things are drawn into it. But I would assume that, yes, the structure itself, the labyrinth itself, births the monsters that were within it. What it's all making me believe is that, yes, he says at some point during the war, he went to the castle and seen these individuals. They were the personal guard. The monsters that are inside this labyrinth are her personal guard, and then who the guardian ends up being is the same. It kind of makes me wonder if possibly they were all spawned from the guardian themselves and their memories, recreating essentially his personal guard, defending the throne itself, and thus they're all manifestations of that itself. Or upon this destruction here, does the memories of all these individuals, which a large portion of it does seem like it was supposed to be the demons, all suddenly kind of just get swept up in this one spot, and it recreates that last battlefield. All these warriors, the strongest of memories in that moment, create it. I would assume it's probably the Guardian. The Guardian is recreating those final moments and its final stand, which is kind of very interesting that a labyrinth can manifest the memories of the individual there. Because it does seem like, based on how things kind of play out, that there is sort of an element of being able to tap into those memories. But this all plays into my frustrations here in a minute.
Go on. Come now. Sit.
Geese didn't reply, but sat down before him. Sitting across from one another made Body want to drink. But they had nothing. This wasn't the sort of conversation to have sober.
Have you heard the world used to look different than its current form? That's the thing where the Golden Knight Aldebaran's blow didn't just take out Kishirika Kishidishu, but sunder the continent and create an ocean, yeah? Yes, that.
The legend was treated as mere fiction these days. It was utterly unbelievable that one man could change the shape of a continent. People know, when they look out the vastness of the world, that they were small, and nature is bountiful. Badigadi counted himself amongst them. The mountain, the ocean, all nature was always magnificent and beyond power to change.
I can't really see it, but you were there, right? I was.
Geese would be the same. That's why he listened like he did.
In the days of my birth, there was no Riga Sea, Mountain Edits, the hills of Eris, the Milashellan River, the Copper Lake. Heard of them?
Geese shook his head.
They're all names of places that used to exist. Each had its own history. Mountain Edits, for example, was renowned as a mountain where the great elf swordsman Editslade perfected his art.
Oh, wow. Editslade had died in the first human-demon war. He was an elf swordsman who had slain many thousands of demons. At last, in the decisive battle against Necros the Kloss, one of the 5 great demon kings, he died a heroic death. No books containing that episode remained, nor anyone who could tell it. Even the mountain that had symbolized it was gone. It was natural for Geese to be ignorant of it. It was all like evidence that the man ever lived had disappeared. Yet Body remembered. The story of that great swordsman was very popular during the Second Great Human-Demon War. Not to the level that everyone knew it, but everyone who swung a blade had heard some version of the tale.
People, buildings, and not only that, but even the shape of the land was gone. We lost everything.
Badigadi felt tightness in his chest.
That is how much power is contained in the fighting god armor we are going to collect.
Body thought of lost things and lost memories. He thought back on all the beautiful vistas that no one remembered.
It is power to destroy the world.
Badigadi wondered if Geese understood how much might be lost from here on out.
If, in the Behel Kingdom, it comes to the same conclusion it did last time, the entirety of the Divine Continent and around half of the Central Continent and Demon Continent will be wiped out.
Geese took this in silence.
The Great Explosion will alter the landscapes of the remaining continents as well. The Central Continent will cease to maintain its current prosperity. The Great Forest will become a desert. The Millis Continent will be swallowed by the ocean, and the bigger continent may be pushed even further away. The races will be thrown together, and there will be conflict, though it is not recorded in any history book. 4,200 years ago, an age of darkness reigned for nigh on 3,000 years. All the races wandered, searching for land to make their own, fighting one another.
Granted, Badigadi didn't wake up for some years after the war ended. He remembered how, after many years, the humans expelled the demons from the Central Continent and drove them over to the Demon Continent.
Land changes, cultures change, ways of life change, and so conflict breaks out, though it may be hard to get a sense of such things when merely hearing of them.
When Body awoke, he was stunned. The world looked different from before. It had changed in every way.
It was a whole different world.
The end of the world was less flashy than you expect. After a few thousand years passed, no one remembers the world that once was except for the immortal demons. Badigadi changed after that war, became engaged to Kishirika, stopped worrying about trivial things. They lived in contentment through days of peace. As such, Body only had pleasant memories of the past 4,200 years, though he also forgot the bad ones where it suited him. Geese was silent. In his position, he couldn't understand.
With all that in mind, I just had to stop.
Unlike Etov, Body was relatively quick on the uptake, but now he had come to a stop. He wouldn't move again until he was satisfied. He was, after all, a wise demon. He cannot act unless it's rational. Sure. 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 Which is to say, he was waiting to be persuaded. This was where Geese's smooth talking would be put to the test. This was the Demon King's trial. I hate this because it was like a brief moment right here where I'm like, finally. We haven't really had any stops for a lot of this whole right here because this is a lot of kind of laying out one single thought process here. The idea here is, of course, yes, this is how the world was. He gets to this door, he goes to open it, and immediately he's like, okay, behind this door is this guardian. Geese has got it figured out. The Badigadi, so far, we've literally gone through this entire labyrinth and had not fought a single thing because Geese has been told by the man god how to get past everything. So he's going to know how to beat this guardian. So even though this thing's going to have a really powerful guardian, we're going to get past it. This thing's going to be no problem. And then right here, he realizes, okay, we're about to get this armor. We need to think about this. Suddenly, he just stops and thinks about this. What does this armor mean? And it suddenly hits him, what did this armor do last time? And yeah, there's this whole like struggle that I have with Badigadi's character where it almost feels like a foolish aspect. It's the fool's blood kind of concept, like I've talked about before with Eccentric Family. I struggled with watching that show until I watched this second time with the mindset of the fool's blood. This idea that these people are just foolish. In general, they're foolish. And Badigadi gives that sense. He just wants to be foolish, not think about things too much. Have fun, drink, be merry, ha ha ha. Don't care about things too much. But I've always struggled with like him in like a more grounded sense of what he did. What he did with his armor. He killed his wife before with his armor. Yes, granted, she lived. And they kind of pointed that out. But she's still alive, right? She didn't technically die. But there's still a sense of like, you caused harm once before to the one you loved, and now you could do it again. Why are you going to pick up that armor again? It seemed like he regretted it. And here it's hitting heavily on that because he's walked through everything that was the previous world. It's the people that used to guard Kishirika that he loved so much. The people that would die for her trusted knights, everybody around him. Yes, the guards themselves apparently were already dead. But it's still taken into him right here what used to be before I donned that armor once before. And that's where it's going into this stuff. All this stuff, all this legacy, all these tales, these existence, these symbols of one person who did great feats, all these landmarks, all this stuff, all these animals, all these people, all the demons, everything in this massive area of this continent. It's a lot of people. And again, because the demons were winning in that war, these were all demon kind. These were their people. Yes, there's probably humans scattered here and there, whatever, some areas here or there. But essentially, again, right here, it's hitting him because he's recalling all this stuff. He even mentioned at some point that these things that he tapped away. At some point, he chose to follow Kishirika this way, and so he tapped it away. He chose the things to forget. And right now, it's suddenly coming back to him. I destroyed this world. I destroyed this continent, refaced it completely. That's how powerful this thing is. I wiped out all of this stuff. And if I wear it again, it could destroy what was remaining. It's going to reshape the world again. It's going to knock out the divine continent. Everybody there, gone. Half of the central continent, half the demon continent, erased. It's going to probably flood Millis continent. Probably a massive wave will hit it and just wipe everything out on it. Probably kill so many people there. Anybody left alive is going to be frantically looking for somewhere to be. It's going to stir up conflict again because all the races are going to come together again and they're going to be mad about who caused this. There's going to be conflict about land. Who's going to take what land? There's going to be war breaking out. This thing has the power to destroy the world. Convince me. What? Why is this all flooding into you and now you're like, let's challenge. Sit down, beast. Tell me. I think it's right here where I kind of give up on Badigadi. Like, I give up on trying to understand. I'm going to continue to try to understand Badigadi. But I think overall, I've kind of given up on what Refugien has done with Badigadi's character. I don't think I can understand it. I don't think I'm going to be able to ever follow the mindset. I don't think it doesn't for me have sort of a logic behind it. And again, that's probably the point. Again, the fool's blood concept here. The foolish man. But there's that struggle that I have where it almost feels like he's trying to finally go, you know what? I see what this could cause. Shrug, test. It bugs me. It kind of bugs me. And it bugs me even more in the idea that putting it into context, this could destroy the world. Destroy it. Gone. Erased. Not, again, just this segment gone and everybody floods down here. But this could destroy the world. The world in which his beloved lives in. You're okay with that? I wouldn't be. If I knew this thing could destroy the world, I would not get into it if I had somebody that I love so much like that. I mean, I do have people I love like that, but like that doesn't click with me. That doesn't make any sense to me. The train of thought here really does cement in his mind that I destroyed so much. And to be fair, he never at any point says, I feel bad for harming them. I took lives. It never gets into the idea that he feels bad for the lives that he took by wearing that armor, but at least does imply that he himself caused great conflict. He himself erased so much from this world by taking his actions. But at least, again, acknowledges that he caused damage in the end. And again, going back to what we talked about before, he will lose himself in this thing. And he nearly killed Kishika before, and he could possibly do it again. None of this makes any sense to me. None of it makes any sense to me. It frustrates me in the end. It honestly does frustrate me in the end. I really did feel like there was a chance this could be the moment where it just kind of clicks for him. I knew it was going to end up happening anyway. I mean, we literally just had the chapter where they drove up in it. But I was hoping there would be a sign in here that would kind of play into what I was hoping before, that because the man god cannot see his future, that there was a hope for me that he was going to have a moment here where he realizes, I don't want to do that again. And it could still end up being that way, but I don't think so. I think in the end, he's going to have to get beat down, and it sucks. There was a really hope that I had that he was going to pull the rug out from underneath Geese and the man god. But with him being the only person to really fight Rudius at this point, you need your final battle, so it has to happen. Hey, bud, you're an immortal demon, so I guess you look at the world differently than the likes of me.
I expect so.
When the lands change and cultures change, well, it probably doesn't look like a different world to you.
Surely it would look that way to anyone.
Nah, it wouldn't. No way. The way I see it, even if you don't do nothing, just going to the neighboring countries, like, heck, it's like a different world. If you go back to your old country, 10 years later, it'll look totally different. Like a brand new reality. 10 years, he said. Body knew that in theory, but 10 years was really a long time for most races. In just 10 years, there's a lot that doesn't change much. So you get moments where you see stuff and feel at ease. Then you think about how you ain't changed either, and it really brings you down. Geese spoke with the same nonchalance as he always had, but there was weight behind his words. Destroy the world? You ask me? That's an honor. After the world ends, I like to build myself a monument. It sounded like a jape, but his tone was serious. Only, if there's that big of an explosion, I guess I won't be surviving that. Hell, I'll probably die in the aftershock, halfway through the fight. The boss, Rudius, he's an exceptional guy. Yeah, he's got magic coming out of his eyeballs. But like me, he can't use a battle aura. He doesn't let that get him down. He tries hard and gets clever. Plus, he's humble and he knows how to rely on folks. He relies on them, even though you'd think that he could do whatever he wanted himself. A guy like him could do basically everything. He could divide up tasks amongst people, and they'll do it. There's not many who could do that. Me, I'm not strong enough to take on the boss. I know that. See, this time, I did bring people together. It'll be a fight on equal footing. Makes you want to win, doesn't it? Unlike the boss, I got nothing but this. I got the sword god, the north god, the abyssal king, the ogre god, and now the fighting god. Yeah, I borrowed the man god's power. But I reckon I've gathered as good of a force as I could have. We'll go in with a lineup like you've never seen before. I gathered them, and I'm going in to win. So it's nothing to me if I die along the way. I've lived a shady sort of life. Doing what the man god told me. That's how much I value my own skin. I've looked after it real careful. So no way I'm going to lose it. That's how I felt. I thought it was the most important thing. But I also thought maybe there might be something else more important out there somewhere. Anyways, it ends here. I know I might die, but I'm not about to stop. So you gotta commit. My opponent's Rudius. Well, yours is Dragon God Orsted. I guess an enemy even more stronger than Laplace. Seems about right. The world should end, you know? I thought there would be something in there. I thought there would be something in there. It really goes back to what we kind of talked about before. This is his mindset. Of course, the buck stops at the very end. What is Geese is I got nothing. I might as well do what the man God tells me. He keeps me alive. I'm gonna keep doing what he tells me because I got nothing without him. I've lost everything. I have nothing to lose. I just want to live, and he's telling me to do this. I'm gonna keep doing this. And then it goes back to like trying to kind of figure out here what he's doing to sort of talk Badigadi into doing this, which it comes down to literally like, this guy's great. Urias is amazing. You know, they do what he tells them. He's not like me. He's got people behind him. He relies on them, even though he could do so much amazing things. Me, I'm not strong. I'm not like Rudius. I'm going against somebody that literally is way more powerful than I am, but I'm going to do like him. I'm going to gather people. I'm going to grab this incredible force and go take him on, and I'm going to win. That's my goal, is to do that. And I might die, whatever. But it doesn't seem like in the end he cares about his life. So it's nothing to me if I die along the way. I've lived a shady life, doing what the man God tells me. That's how much I value my own skin. I don't care. If it all blows up in the end of the fight, I might die, whatever. But I'm not about to stop. He just wants to win. That's his goal. And that all comes down to the final statement of, he's stronger than Laplace. Seems like the world's going to end because of that fight. Shrug. Risking your life was an idea unfamiliar to Badigadi, an immortal demon. The dragon god had the power to kill immortal demons. That's what killed his father. Yet it didn't seem real to him. Even Edtov was still going strong after being sealed away for who knows how many times over. Body was unfamiliar with death. Having said that, he knew people with finite lives valued life. People like Geese held life especially dear. They wouldn't do anything important with their lives. They treasured them, nevertheless. And again, I still understand Geese's perspective here because, yes, without the man god, he will die. He's too weak. He's not able to do anything by himself. He has nothing. And so, yes, he will go to this fight where, yes, he could die, but he has no choice because he has no other path. If he doesn't go here with a possibility of death, he will die. So it makes sense from Geese's perspective, even though I don't like him anymore. They wouldn't do anything important with their lives. They treasured them, nevertheless. That was just it. It was now that Geese had the chance to do something important, that he was willing to give his precious life. There was nothing that obligated Body to join him. Body had decided to oppose the dragon god, decided to join the man god, though he said never again to himself at the end of the Second Great Human-Demon War. He had plunged to the depths of the Devil's Cave to retrieve the fighting god armor. Indeed, he had to commit, just like Geese. Again, it just doesn't click in my brain. Why? Again, it doesn't click. There's no... I guess the thing is really in the end, and I'm not going to keep hitting on this over and over again, but again, I'm trying to figure this stuff out as it goes along. In the end, it comes down to I caused devastation. I chose to not get involved with this stuff and just be merry or whatever. He gets sucked back into it again by the man god in this whole thing with Geese himself and going along with this whole process. In the end, usually whenever there's some sort of thing, there is a conflict that happens in a person's mind where they see that they have to do this in order to avoid this. They have to do this in order to gain this. I have to do this for this end goal, this end reasoning. But I don't see that. I have to do something that seems against everything that I'm thinking, that this right here is bad to do, but there's no gain to it. There's no gain to it. There always has to be a gain or something, and there's nothing here that I see. There's only loss. And additionally, again, going against the only thing that he really truly cares about, which is Kishirika. That's the only thing he cares about, but he's doing all of this that's against everything and will cause nothing but loss. He gains nothing from this, but he's still doing it. And it seems to be predicated right here on Geese telling him something. The only thing I can think of in this moment, but it doesn't really confirm it, is the idea that I have never had a life to risk because I'm an immoral demon, but I will be going against something that will, and so it might be a new experience, but it's not. Though he said never again to himself at the end of the Second Great Human-Demon War, he plummeted to the depths of the cave to retrieve the fighting god armor, the one that nearly killed his beloved, the one that caused him to lose everything. Sure, have to commit, just like Geese. It's frustrating. It's really frustrating.
Bah, just so. Very well. Let us go and obtain the world-destroying armor.
All right. That's what I like to hear. Let's go. Body got a little tangled up in his thoughts. After that day, he ought to have known that it was better to plunge ahead without knowing about what might greet him. He was clever, but was also foolish, and thought that would make a man worthy of Kishirika. If so, he'd better get started. He gave a laugh. I guess here, and the idea of being foolish and going along with this is going to be something that Kishirika likes, I guess. At the very end, I guess. Body knew the defender of the labyrinth. He was one of those they'd called the 5 Great Demon Kings during the Second Great Human-Demon War. When Body arrived at the site of the final battle, this man had been long dead. He had been the captain of Kishirika's personal guard, and Body didn't want to give his name. This being had the same form, but it wasn't him. Being at the deepest point of the Devil's Cave, Body was convinced that he'd find the spitting image of Laplace. It was anticlimactic that this man, loyal but rigid and the type to rush headlong into everything, was the master of the Devil's Cave. It was hardly living up to his name. He's like, when I opened the door, I thought I was going to be a Laplace in there. It ended up being this guy. It's so mean. Oh boy, this looks nasty.
Bah, it's true. He is no serious threat.
Standing before them was the Headless Knight. What changed from long ago was that he wasn't holding his head. He wore jet black armor and was impaled with swords. Whenever he moved, the swords made an awful scraping noise. But a guy recalled that he had never been for one sticking himself with swords, which meant that he was probably how he died, fighting to the bitter end. Oof. Not against Laplace, though. He led an army half destroyed by Laplace against the humans. In the end, they cut his head off. When you're not an immortal demon, you die when your head was removed. Badigadi thought that he'd been blown up with the explosion, but it turned out that he was here. It was a touching reunion that got Badigadi all choked up. Normally, Badigadi would have liked to share a drink and exchange old war stories. Back then, they hadn't seen eye to eye, but nowadays, he was sure they would enjoy a drink together. Alas, they had to vanquish this guardian if they were to achieve their goal. He didn't have a head to drink from anyhow.
Bah, come at me, if you dare.
Badigadi raised his fist and charged forward. In the past, he might not have balked before this Demon King. This captain, he was a strong man, especially in single combat. He could even stave off Etoff, an immortal with a bottomless reserve of endurance. He reigned supreme as the strongest of the 5 great Demon Kings. He was doubtless a power to be reckoned with. Scholarly old Badigadi never once picked a fight with him. He'd have sent him flying in an instant. Ever since those days, Body had trained and trained, using the memory of the time he spent wearing the fighting god armor. He developed his own unique martial style and honed his muscles so that he could use it. He stayed with Etoff, who beat him to a pulp every day. He worked so that he could act with reckless arrogance too. Who would have thought the day would come for him to show his captain those results? Kind of surprised that he even did train himself. Yes, it does imply the idea that he went around and trained people and bestowed knowledge and whatnot, but it never really implied the idea that he himself was actively trying to get strong again. Because again, the whole idea that he was trying to impress Kishirika for the longest time, and then after the whole thing with the armor, he became the foolish man that's just going to enjoy life. Interesting that he was actually training under not only just individuals, but Etoffs especially. Interesting. Approaching, the Guardian sent Badigadi flying with a punch. Body did 3 somersaults, with his face caved in. It would heal soon enough.
Bah, this is bad. I won't win like this.
Getting up again, Body raised his fist, but the difference in strength was starkly apparent, as expected from a guardian of a high-level labyrinth. While the captain seemed stronger than Body remembered, he surely had this in him before. It was clear that even with Body's training, this guy still outmatched him.
Right then, listen up. You got it? He's got a weak point. Bah, ridiculous. A weak point? Him?
Yeah. Only what the man god says is his weak point is words. Catch my meaning? Body stopped with those words. The second he stopped, the guardian hit him with a flat of his blade and sent him flying. As he flew, Body thought, words? Even if he were to say them, he had no ears to hear any.
Aha, I see.
It was true that they had long fought side by side in the Second Great Human-Demon War. Though they had not come to blows, they had of course exchanged words, and not a few promises. Many of them they had kept, and just as many had broken. In that case, there was too many to choose from.
I know not.
Badigadi took another hit. The swords were so blunt they couldn't pierce his body. Swords. That was it.
Long ago, he tried to give Kishirika a sword as an offering. The day before, he said someone broke it. But in fact, the one who broke it was me. I am sorry. I resented the idea of you rising any further. It was on impulse. Forgive me.
The guardian lost it. Though he didn't have a head, a cry of rage burst from somewhere, so he could hear even without ears. His race's ears weren't on their heads. Perhaps they didn't speak from their throats. I wonder if that's true, or if that's just him kind of making a weird assumption like, oh, I guess his ears aren't on his head. It's a monster. I mean, logic is kind of gone with the weird monster mana, monster crazy beast thing that's manifested from after the war of a... Nothing here is logic. Again, a bunch of people are there that are apparently copies of beings from this army. He probably is born from it as well. Badigadi had been sorry that he hadn't been able to confess his misdeeds. But then, all you could expect for a sword offer to Kishirika, was that it was going to get used as a party trick and broken anyways. Thus, Body didn't feel all that bad. So dumb.
Come on, you must have something else. Ain't you the wise Demon King? There's too many possibilities. I can't narrow them down. They just go with them all. I remember when your daughter, that glowing blue horse we found on Roslyn Island. That's the when we defeated the human army in the Cohiba Hills.
None of the words got through to him. Every time he said something, a sword flew out and sent him flying. If Body was an ordinary demon, he'd have died 100 times over. He called himself the wise Demon King, and though he had his own opinions on wisdom and knowledge, it was damn impressive how the memories kept bubbling up. It was like he was his old him again, reliving his memories. He grew a bit nervous. It's kind of interesting right here, though, because I almost feel like if this was earlier, it would make more sense. And almost going with this idea of not so much earlier where it is, again, he's going along with this whole thing and he's just like, oh, okay, here's a challenge. Okay, tell me why I should do this. Oh, I guess that makes sense. Let's go in there and destroy the world. Ha ha ha. It would have been more interesting to have faced the actual Guardian and had this happen right here because this almost implies an idea of him becoming his old self. Becoming that old self that was trying to become something to aid Kishirika because he liked her and whatever. And he went down this path that she herself said, you shouldn't do that. Laugh more. Have more fun. Blah, blah, blah. Because I do like the idea that just in his experience of bringing up all these memories, he's recalling his own self. And he says he grew a bit nervous. It was like he was his old self again, reliving his memories, and he grew a bit nervous. What's the nervousness? After going through a little more than 100 recollections, Badigadi noticed something. Oi! He slowed down a bit, hasn't he? The Guardian, moving with a horrible racket of his armor, and his sword scraped. He had lost some of his vigor, to be sure, but I didn't know how much of his words found its mark, but one of them must have. Right, now's your chance. Don't give him time to recover. Body didn't find that right, and he looked at the loyal Guardian. Nothing he had said had been the answer. The Guardian looked at him like it pained him. Perhaps his old stories had allowed him to realize he wasn't an enemy. He'd lost his sense of self, but he knew that Body was not someone he ought to turn his sword on. Why did he try so hard to keep fighting? He was the Guardian. That was part of it. Monsters were beholden to such roles. Surely some regret had turned him into the Guardian. With that, Body knew what to say.
We demons lost the war, but we were not destroyed, and Kishirishu is alive and well. We shall fight another day. Put up your sword.
The Guardian stopped moving. Then, without a word, slowly knelt. Then, fell forward. It was as though it was satisfied. He was saying that he could now finally rest.
Even after becoming a labyrinth guardian, he was still bound by loyalty. What a stick in the mud.
Body hoped he won't become a guardian of the labyrinth after the fight with the dragon god. As he thought this, his feet carried him forward. That's interesting. Again, right here, it all seems to be like symbolizing the idea that this guy was actually a corpse. And again, probably still having a mind in there that still retained memories. Because, yes, the words that were given were feeding into him. Again, my question mark really is, was this guy a copy or was he legit the corpse of this person brought in here and basically is an undead guardian that is defending this place? Either way, the guy has the memories. He's in there doing his role to protect Kishirika. Yeah, they walk into it. The deepest point is her throne. This is her castle. Her throne is behind him, which honestly makes it all kind of feel pretty bad. It all feels kind of pretty bad. And again, they mentioned this before with like, Paul and whatnot, being, crushing his body and burning it so that it doesn't become undead. You don't want it to attack somebody later on. Well, all of them is that way. I mean, Galfalion was the same way. Feels bad. At the deepest point of the labyrinth was a throne where Kishirika had sat. It was currently occupied by a suit of armor. It was beautiful. Simple design, curving breastplate, pauldrons, tacit, nothing special about it. But you could see that there was miles apart from a typical armor. Whatever it was made of, it shone gold and emitted a faint glow. It was awe-inspiring that fascinated anyone who saw it. It was a bit smaller than last time that Badigadi seen it, but it was no way that it changed in size. When Body first saw it, the awe that it inspired him must have made it appear larger. Now, it appeared far more sinister. And yet you're going to get into it. This is the fighting god armor. Wow.
You can tell how crazy powerful it is just by looking at it. Take care not to touch it. It will suck you in.
Right. Geese then gingerly drew back his outstretched fingers.
Bah, nothing will happen simply by touching it.
Come on, don't scare me like that. Honestly, though, it feels like something that would if you happen to touch it. The fighting god armor, built by Laplace as the ultimate armor. Nothing would happen if you touched it, but it cursed those that wore it, spurring them into battle. Remembering the old days was enough to give Badigadi goosebumps. Doesn't make any sense.
Geese,
Yeah?
I know not what will become of me after I put on the armor.
Geese was silent.
I will do my best to protect my senses of self, but it will only be a matter of time before I am lost. Worst case.
Worst case? Yikes. The hell am I supposed to do then?
Oh no, you need only to get me to where our enemies are. I'll handle things after that.
All right. Sounds doable.
Bah, I'm counting on it.
Cool. It took a minute, but now we got all the force we need to win. The Abyssal King will disrupt them. Then the Sword God, North God, and Ogre God will go in first. And then, in the end, if the Fighting God takes out the Dragon God, then victory is good as sealed.
Well then, for the first time in 4,200 years, I'll show our enemy what it looks like when I get serious.
Yeah, you got this, big guy.
Bah ha ha ha.
Ha ha ha. I still hate it. Still hate it. Ugh. And then we get the man god moment. We get a man god moment. Much as I hate to say this, when you're in such high spirits, your time is up.
I was on my heart-spared way home when the man god came into my dreams to provoke me. What fun. Ah, but what particular place it was, white and empty. Where it could possibly be located has always been a mystery to me. You couldn't wave it off with some excuse of it being a dream. The place was always the same, and from what I've heard, that was true for others the man god spoke to as well.
What do you care about that for? So annoying.
Now, man god, settle down. You come out of nowhere, saying time's up, but I haven't got any idea what that means. I might be a wise demon king, but I still need knowledge in order to understand.
Abyssal King Vita got taken out right from the start. The Sword God and the North God found out and went charging in too soon. The Ogre God joined the fight, but then Etoff came and backed up Rudius and took the Ogres hostage.
Ah, you got thrashed then.
This is your fault. Yours and Geese's for dwelling down that labyrinth for too long. Useless. You should have wiped the floor with the labyrinth like that. What were you even doing? And Geese, all that big talk from him, only for him to end up like this. What a moron. I was counting on you.
Ha ha ha. I see how it is. The forces your symbol got taken out, and you're sulking. You might get called a god, but in the end, you're just a man.
What did you say to me?
The thing about plans is that it rarely goes as you like. One look at the Sword God and the North God should have been all it took to guess that they'd run in too soon. Especially Alec. The boy never knew how to heal, not since he was a runt. Perhaps things didn't go as you wanted, but you ought to have anticipated that. But wait, your over-reliance on seeing the future means you've never been one to expect any other potential outcome. This sort of thing happens all the time.
What's your problem?
Bah ha ha ha. You're only gonna get more wound up if you get that touchy over every little thing. I must say though, it's unexpectedly refreshing to see you make that face. I like it. Once, a glimpse on that face might have chickened me, but now that I'm lending you my help, out of the goodness of my heart, I have nothing to fear. Bah ha ha ha.
Normally that bugs me, but no, now, yeah, I got you. It's not like you're gonna kill me. It's not like you're gonna send something after me. It's not like you're not gonna do anything to me. But I don't know, I question it. Because again, right here, he's feeling like he lost. Like, it's so funny to kind of have Geese over here is doing his thing. He's building up towards this battle, and he's getting everything into place that he needs in order to take down Rudius. And he thinks he's got a surefire plan. And even for our perspective, it feels like this is a decently good challenge right here. Over here, as this goes along, through the perspective of us seeing, the man god talking to Rudius for a brief moment, and right here, he's still losing. The assumption is that right now, despite the fact that they have the armor, the man god still sees that he is losing. He's still seeing a futures where he's dead. So it kind of implies the idea that no matter what they're doing right here, they're going to still lose. I mean, the assumption they're all going to lose in the end anyways, because I don't expect the story to end with Rudius losing. I mean, there's a possibility, but it could. But yeah, I like the fact that he's like, yeah, Alec's always been that way. He's always been that way. You should have known that by looking at them. And again, that does technically play true. Your over-reliance on seeing the future is that you've never been one to expect any other potential outcome. That technically does make sense, again, to the idea of somebody trying to go up against somebody with a strong destiny. It's going to get thrown off course. You think by doing this, it's going to work this way, but it's not going to work that way. You should know that you can't just throw a bunch of powerful things and it's going to suddenly fix. It has to be pushed in that direction. Again, that's what Geese seems to be like he's doing. God, I just thought about it. No, that doesn't make any sense. It would be kind of funny in the end if it turns out to be that Geese himself, right here, this whole plot that Geese is doing is trying to destroy any tool the man god has. That would be mastermind. I'm sorry, that would be super mastermind moment. But if we come to find out in the end that the reason why, even though it's playing this whole thing out, that Geese is putting up this big fight for Rudius, in the end, he's sort of meticulously planned it out so that everybody gets killed individually. And in the end, the man god loses his most powerful weapon, which is the armor, because he knows that he might send Badigadi to get it himself. And so I might as well manipulate this whole process myself. Because again, the man god keeps seeing himself dead. Literally, Refugin right here is telling us, in the end, Rudius wins. Why would the writer tell the reader that the man god loses in the end? Before the big battle, why would the writer tell us that he loses? In the final chapters, building up to the biggest fight, why would the writer tell us who is going to win? Because that's the rug pull. I don't know. It's weird.
Give me a break. Sure, I can't see your future, but I can still take away things you hold dear, and I'll manage in places your eyes don't reach.
That's the shortcoming of yours. You fail to get specific on things I hold dear.
Demon Emperor Kishirika Kishirisu.
Oh, to be sure, the thought of you laying your hands on her is not a pleasant one. But you mustn't take this all so seriously. This is the kind of friendly banter that comes from being allies. Indeed, you and I are comrades now, both in arms. Taking out your irritation on your allies will only hurt their morale. You shouldn't let on to your allies when you're panicking, not when your defeat is by no means certain.
Uncertain? You do know that half our allies I brought on board are down, and it's only you left now, right?
It is not certain. It isn't over. After all, Geese and I are still here.
What? There's still something you could do?
Oh yes, that's the thing about these plans. You always want to think 2 or 3 moves ahead. Geese and I are able to anticipate that the Sword God and Alec would act like fools and charge in ahead. We have another plan.
And are you sure we'll win with this plan?
Bah! Haven't you been listening? There's no such thing as a plan that's guaranteed to win. On that note, our first plan aimed at total victory, but this next one doesn't. The next best plan is what comes after the best plan, you know?
Don't piss me off. Answer the question. Will it win or won't?
We ought to be able to satisfy the conditions for victory, even if the victory is not total.
You better.
Interesting. We ought to be able to satisfy the conditions for victory, even if the victory is not total. Meaning, again, earlier, the initial plan, and this again goes to my theory was, I was actually more thinking the idea that Geese was purposely trying to tap until it finally goes off the side. But no, we had a backup plan. There was the total plan, and then there's a backup plan. The total plan was to go in there together. Again, Vita holding them, distracting Rudius, locking them down, and then everybody else coming in together to just swarm them. But again, because all this other stuff happened, Vita dies, all this other stuff happens, okay, that's fine. That failed, but we still have the backup plan. But with the backup plan, total victory isn't possible. But at least we'll satisfy the conditions for victory. And again, what are those conditions? It would have to come down to probably Rudius and his family dead, or Orsted's dead. One of the two. Total victory is probably both of them dead, but conditions of victory would probably be Rudius and his family, or Orsted, because one of those two things needs to go. If you get rid of Orsted, this is all done because Orsted was the one coming after him. He was the one that walked that door and took him down. And the reason that he had allies in order to take him down, because him alone wasn't enough, was his family. So get rid of the family, Orsted's alone, he dies. Take down Orsted, the family never comes there. Now the other one could be that there's the third one, which is just to deplete some of his mana. Make that explosion happen. Why is that explosion happening? This massive release of mana, this massive explosion happens. It could be just simply fight Orsted long enough that he drains some of that mana. And that could end up turning into that. After he beats Sander, he might just go straight after Orsted, see if he can expend some mana. That's his enemy, as I were mentioning earlier. Again, a condition. They're going to lose. We will die. But we're going to make that condition. We're going to finish that condition.
You better.
Well, even if I don't have another plan, I simply fight with everything I have.
That would be pointless.
Bah! That's the sort of thinking of why you're in this mess.
And what's that supposed to mean?
Geese will give everything he has to you, and I mean to do the same.
I don't know why.
I don't know about the Abyssal King, but let's assume that he, too, gave everything he had. But what of the Sword God and the North God? What of the ogre god? The sword god and the north god rushed in too soon, but they had given it all for you. If they had trusted you as us, whom you trust, what do you think would have happened then? Mightn't they not have panicked and rushed in when they had heard the abyssal king had been killed? The ogre god said that the ogres had been taken hostage. His job is to protect the ogres. As their leader, it is his duty. So when they were taken hostage, he had no choice but to prioritize them. But what if he had decided to give everything to you? Say he cast aside his title of ogre god and fought for you, just as another warrior from the start. Wouldn't he have continued to fight in your name, even after the ogre gods had been taken hostage?
I don't. There's no point of what ifs.
I like this. This is actually very interesting. I didn't notice this the first time. He's literally pointing out why Geese is different, why Vita is different, and why seemingly Badigadi is different. Badigadi, Geese, and Vita all are fighting to the end. And there was several people like this before now, but Geese has always been the prime example of all this stuff. And again, we've seen the opposite effect, especially with the Ogre God. Yes, the Sword God, North God makes sense, but the Ogre God was especially true. He wasn't manipulated directly by the Man God. The Man God didn't have anything on him. With Vita, he did. Vita felt that the Man God saved his life and did everything for him. He should. I have to pay him back. Geese, I have nothing. Everything's gone. The Man God's given me everything. I'll fight to the end. These two over here, there's a reason why they died. The reason why this one ran away, there's a reason why he ran away. They weren't giving you their all. Me and Geese, we're giving you our all. That's different. It's very interesting. The Man God doesn't understand his true allies. I guess doesn't understand the idea of somebody giving their all.
Bah! Life is one what ifs after another. People do things for one another and help others without hope of reward in order to turn those what ifs into reality. Indeed, just like Brutus Greyrat does.
You're telling me to copy him?
Your interpretation of what I said are of no concern of mine. However, I shall give you one word of advice before I go. It's not fair for me to always be the one taking your advice, now is it? I am the wise Demon King. I shall return the favor every once in a while.
Like I want your...
Geese and I will likely die in this battle, but the fight will continue. And even if we win, it will not mean a total end to the fighting. You can see the future, so you think if you see yourself smiling in the end, that means you have won, but others will come to threaten that shining future of yours. So hear me, if you want to have the last laugh. Pay heed to the hearts of men.
Damn. Damn.
The hearts of men? That's the stupidest thing.
And now I bid farewell. Bah, bah, bah.
This is totally gonna be the last time he sees Man God. That was a mic drop for the Man God. He's like, yeah, never seen you again. Mic drop. Which unfortunately makes me think he's gonna die. I'm gonna bestow something to you. There's so much in this last part. My gosh. Life is a set of what ifs. We're all fighting for you. There was those that didn't. The what ifs. People do things for one another and help others without hope of reward in order to turn those what ifs into reality. Like Rudius Greyrat. You want me to copy him? Again, people help Rudius without expecting reward. We're helping you without expecting reward. Others didn't help you because they had their own reward they were after. The North God wanted Orsted. The Sword God wanted Orsted. Ogre God just wanted to protect his family, and then they were in danger and they went to protect them. Geese has nothing, is just doing what the Man God says. Badigadi makes no sense. Rudius Greyrat has many allies that don't expect reward. They turn those what ifs into reality. Do you want me to copy him? Your interpretation of it is no concern of mine. However, I'm going to give you advice before I go. Even if we succeed with this, somebody else is going to come after you. Even if we do this for you and it pulls it off, we're going to die. But hey, you'll probably be smiling in the end. So let me give you this one last piece of advice. In order to keep yourself smiling in the future, in order to keep from something else threatening that shining future of yours, if you want to have the last laugh, pay heed to the hearts of men. I think he's literally telling Badigadi, stop effing with people. Stop causing problems. Listen to the people. Pay heed to their hearts. You're this God of men. You're this Man God. Listen to them. Stop treating them the way that you do. I think it really comes down to the idea of stop messing with people because that's what caused them to come after you. And Badigadi probably seen that with Rudius. Rudius had seen him, and he burnt Rudius. And now Rudius is coming after him. I don't know. That's sort of what I'm getting from that. But I'm kind of curious how that will kind of go in the future. But this does kind of make me believe that there's got to be a chance for Badigadi. And again, it could be playing in with Geese. But again, the man god's watching them. He can't see Badigadi's future, but he at least sees Geese. So unless Geese is keeping it really well wrapped up in his mind. Now, the man god can see where Geese is at. For a minute there, I was kind of thinking if the man god can't see the future of Badigadi, does that mean that he can't see him, kind of similar to Orsted? But no, he's still seeing Geese. Unless they haven't seen how long it's taken, because he's complaining how long it took him to do the dungeon. He may know what's in the dungeon, or he's just complaining in general, but there's a good chance that he possibly can't even see Geese when Badigadi's at his side. I'm kind of curious about that, because I'm kind of curious if we're not seeing a moment where they are plotting. I mean, the conversation they had before the door is pretty much cementing the idea that Geese is going in there to die. I don't know, that goes against my theory on the idea that Geese is going to rug pull it. I still think there's a good chance that Badigadi might not. I don't know. If there is a rug pull, it would be out of left field at this point because there's too much inner dialogue. There's too much conversations happening where they're cementing, we're doing this. So I don't know. But anyways, the final chapter of 25, Interlude, I want to be a hero. This sucks. I didn't want this, but this sucks. Ever since Alec was little, he dreamed of being a hero. Old tales from his father and grandmother were his inspiration there. From his father, he heard a legend of North God Kalman, the little-known champion. From his grandmother, he heard the legend of the fearful demon king named Atov. Together, it was a tale of a champion and a demon king. The demon king was born powerful, was a ruler, and had no peer when it come to viciousness. A champion was born weak, but overcame many trials to strike back at the vicious demon king. North God Kalman and Atov embodied this idealized pairing. Alec's father told him how precious that connection between champion and demon king was. North God Kalman, the champion, wasn't strong by any means. Possessing slightly more skill than most, he'd set up his own school, but he was still never anything more than a commonplace warrior. Despite that, he waged a hopeless war for peace. That was the sort of era it was. He couldn't have lived with himself otherwise. The only reason they called him a hero was because he faced the final battle and survived. No one would remember him if he hadn't. That's the sad reality. I do like this whole aspect here where we are technically going to see sort of what builds Alec's mindset and how he views what he wanted to become, which is this hero. Up until now, it's always been trying to be like his father. He wanted to be a hero like his father. Right here, it's actually putting out two individuals. Two individuals actually molded him. The champion, born weak but overcame many trials and struck down the demon, which is going to be his grandfather. And then his grandmother, this demon king that was born powerful, that was always powerful. This is massive, fearsome, vicious thing. And the two of them are kind of together what sort of molded him. But I'm guessing he already achieved one side. He became a vicious person that was really powerful, just like Atov. But he never achieved the other side. But yes, that's true. You don't get to achieve the status of hero unless you actually do the thing and actually survive it. That said, the Laplace War was so terrible, surviving it could be counted as an achievement. Many fought and died ugly deaths. Human, beast, elf, dwarf, halfling, and demon, they all died. That meant everyone who survived was great, or so his father had said. He told Alec that it was a time where you needed all your strength and wits just to survive. Alec's mother didn't die in that battle, but she was sealed away partway through. His father would say passionately, "What would you call those who achieved the great feats of ending the war in such an era, if not heroes?" He looked up to them to see them as their, again, heroes, which, again, goes back to that whole issue about what Alec's seen as a hero and how it's skewed. And it's very interesting with this chapter how we see that he comes to that conclusion. Alec's favorite story was a different one. A different hero with the same name. The tale of the second North God, Kalman. The second Kalman set off on a journey to make the name of the North God Kalman a true champion, known throughout the world. In his travels, he helped people and defeated great enemies. He wasn't righteous, not by any means. He wasn't resolved to help people or snuff out evil. Here's where it gets really weird. It just so happened that he ended up helping people and nations. He earned the gratitude of many, but he fought only for the name of North God Kalman, and by that same token, to show off his own strength. He had no reason to fight, nor any demon king to slay. He fought only for himself. and ultimately, he became known as the greatest warrior. There was a time when no one disputed the second North God Kalman was the greatest warrior alive. Now, to note, this is Alec's perspective. So this is really kind of giving us perspective here that he believes this to be true. This is what he believed his father did. The assumption, based on what Kalman said, or at least Kalman II, what he stated was that he was doing these feats for a different reason. That didn't make a hero. The idea of just defeating something strong for the sake of defeating something strong, or they see that's evil, and so if I destroy that, I become a hero. He didn't see how you actually become a hero properly. And so he's trying to instill upon Alec, you're doing it wrong. The reason why he had it so skewed is because right here again, he sees that his father did it for these reasons. Dad went out there and did this stuff. He went out there and took out this stuff, only for making the name of North God Kalman. The assumption there is that he was trying to make it a great name because his father was incredible. His father was a hero, but his father wasn't really well known. And so he's trying to make the North God Kalman name known for the sake of his father. He's trying to do these incredible feats for his father. But again, right here, it seems that Alec believes that he's doing it to show how strong he is and to make the name great. And so what does Alec do? He does the same damn thing. And again, so it kind of goes in line with what I was envisioning before when they were talking before, Alec goes and gets squished into nothing. That my assumption there was that, that Kalman II was doing the same thing that Alec ends up doing. So it's just passing on this curse, so to speak. But it doesn't seem like that's the case. Because he managed that, Alec thought that he was really a hero. He was the coolest person in the world, and he looked up to him. Alec's father told him he wasn't to be like the second North God. He only told the story because it made him happy. He wasn't proud of it, not in the slightest. There it is, right there. That confirms it right there. That yes, Kalman II did the same thing Alec did. In the end, it was actually seen as heroic tales, and so Alec was doing the same thing. And I'm right here. If anything, his father heaped more praise to the first North God. He was really amazing, really noble. Again, he did something great, passed that sword off to me. I went out and tried to make his name credible, but I didn't do it right. And I came back and realized what true strength was, but then those stories got out. And Alec goes, I gotta do the same thing as father does. And I gotta go out there and do the same thing he does. No, I made a mistake. Do as he did. Nope. Already out the door. It was the second North God who stayed with Alec in his heart, which proves to why it broke him so much the moment that his father was standing in front of him. He was the hero. I want to be like you. It was the second North God who he wanted to be like. Lying in bed before he went to sleep, it was he who Alec imagined becoming. He'd fight like the second North God and eventually become a hero. When Alec realized he had talent, his dreams grew closer to reality. He had a knack for sword fighting and sensed his own great potential. Because of that, he thought, without basis it turns out, that he could defeat the second North God. He should have been able to put everything he had into it. He had more than enough potential. So why did it end up like this? Because you underestimated people. Because you underestimated things. That's exactly what his father told him. You failed. You didn't rely on your allies. You underestimated people. Now, total darkness covered his vision. Which here's the proof that he's still alive. And I think he's gonna, I don't know, I think he's gonna live. I don't know. Now, total darkness covered his vision. His body was being squeezed hard, and there was a ringing. His limbs couldn't move at all. His awareness hazy. Pressure on his body hurt. If he weren't who he was, he'd probably been crushed to death. He couldn't do anything, not even twitch. It was an agony to breathe, but his body was tough. He could tell this wasn't enough to kill him. Maybe because he couldn't move, his thoughts wouldn't stop racing. He once heard of a story about how his grandmother was sealed away. His grandmother was a brute, and people of her race didn't die easily, so she'd been sealed away numerous times. His father liked to say that he'd seal him away if he was naughty. They didn't have to worry about... How do you scare the child of an immortal demon? You can't say that this purge is going to come get you. He'd be like, cool, I want to kill it. No, you have to say that I'll seal you away like your grandmother was sealed away. They'd have his grandmother tell him about the time that she spent sealed away. She told the story with a scowl. She said that she got better at talking, but she lost the use of her body and the power of speech. This whole part right here is kind of interesting how it's laid out, because they haven't really been 100% clear on what sealing away means. The assumption there is that they're destroyed so bad that they almost have like a cooldown time before they can actually rebuild themselves. So the idea of sealing away is almost like obliterating to the point where they're like atoms. And then like it takes forever for all these atoms to come together and eventually form up. And mentally, when that happens, they can't talk. They can't control their body. They lost the use of their body and the power of speech. They can't do anything. They're just nothing, sitting there and probably thinking the entire time. Her thoughts grew dull, and her usual urge to wreak havoc was forcefully suppressed. That's the weird part. She said it was absolutely humiliating. It makes me... Her thoughts grew dull, and her urge of wreaking havoc was forcefully suppressed. It makes me believe that she had a body. So I'm two of minds here. I'm of two minds here. Either one, they're obliterated, and it takes forever to come back together, but they're still conscious in the spread of matter, or they come back together, but they're just like a zombie. Like they're just, bleh, and they're just waiting for their consciousness and their ability to control themselves to come back. It's just weirdly kind of laid out here. Or it could just mean a follow-up here where they get splattered, and then when they come back together, their urge is dulled for a while. Like they just have no desire to do anything. Because it took them so long to come back together, they don't want to do anything. Like it almost like they're afraid of getting destroyed again. Not afraid is the right word there, but they're dissuaded from doing it again because they just had to go through that whole experience of being splattered. I don't know. It's weird how this is worded. Alec bet that he felt the same way that she did now. He lost to the follower of the dragon god Orsted, Quagmire Rudius. He never should have lost to such an opponent. Rudius was a faint-hearted, lily-livered, spineless rat. The sort that surrounded himself with safety nets. A guy who couldn't take a fight. He thought he was so clever when all he had was low cunning. He was the type to be so overconfident in his own plans that he got sucked into them and died. He technically did. That was like the whole idea of bringing them over there and doing that whole like guide around the place and then going back, and then he's so caught up in it, he didn't even realize the danger that he was walking off into. No, that wasn't right. He was spineless, but he wasn't without resolve. He showed Alec at the end. He came out and fought. He fought one-on-one. Alec was gravely wounded, but even then, the odds were in Alec's favor. He must have known that. Yet he stood up to Alec. He knew that getting that close would be fatal, but he stood tall and stuck true. Alec didn't think he had it in him, misread him, and lost because of that. He'd admit that. Rudius Greyrat was a warrior. Alec assumed it was guys like Rudius who were real heroes. The champions, at least. I mean, go back up here to champions. A champion was born weak, but overcame many trials to strike down the vicious Demon King. They were the ones that were born weak. Rudius was born weak. He could, well, again, it all is based on the idea that probably how he just was raised, but the assumption here is that he's never been able to build a battle ore, and there's a good chance that he never was going to ever be able to. All he had was a massive mana pool, and he kind of built into that. And yes, he learned how to do voiceless casting, but he was born human. Plain and simple, born human. But he overcame things, built himself up, and surrounded himself with very powerful allies to overcome the vicious Demon King. He is a champion. Real hero? I'm sure people are going to agree with me on this one. No. I don't see Rudius as a hero. I don't think Rudius has ever done anything heroic. Like, everything is for himself. Rudius does what he does for him. He's a hero to his family. No doubt. For his family, he is a hero. For his friends, he is a hero. But he's not like what you would get from a typical hero story. Like, oh, I'm going to go out and defeat the Demon King. No, it's always for a purpose, for his own safety and his family's safety. He never goes out of his way to save somebody. Very rarely. And like most of the cases, he kind of gets swept up into it. Like the whole thing with the Beast Folk village. He just got swept up in it. It's not like he went there with the intention, I got to save those people. And it was really Rejerd that spurred him to eventually save them. He was just going to get out of there. But Rejerd's like, no, I can't not do something. These kids are hurting. I think one's dead. So yeah, I don't think Rudius is a hero. He's not a hero story. A little cowardly, a man who couldn't survive without the help of others. Yep. Working out convoluted strategies, scurrying around as faintless as a mouse. Underneath that cowardice, he harbored hidden courage, some with the guts to fight with all their strength against an opponent they had no hope of defeating. Yes, just like the first North God. Yep. Alec's seen it now. Perhaps he misunderstood some things about strength. He thought a hero only had to be strong. What is strength really? Could you call yourself strong for fighting and defeating opponents weaker than yourself? Alec could have surpassed the second North God, became history's greatest North God cowman. That wasn't worth questioning. He knew he could. What would it matter? When you achieve something, you knew you could do it all along. What does that mean? A true hero fights battles, even when he doesn't know he can win. I don't necessarily agree with this idea. I guess in the mindset of where he's going, it does make sense. True heroes fight battles even if he knows he can't win. It's by achieving an impossible task that you become a hero. No. A hero is simply somebody that saves somebody. A hero is simply somebody that does an incredibly heroic feat. And that usually involves just going after something and stopping something from happening. There's a danger for these people. You save the people by defeating the bad thing. It doesn't have to be that the thing that you defeated is something that you don't think you can defeat. No, you're just trying to save people. You see somebody in danger, you take action. It doesn't matter if you can overpower it or not. It's nice that you can overpower it, because that means you won't fail, but you don't have to be weaker than what you're trying to stop in order for it to be that much better. It's the fact that you took action. That's like saying two banks are being robbed at the same time. The same build person has a weapon, and they're robbing the bank. Now over here, a bodybuilder walks into the bank as it's happening, and he rushes over and he tackles the guy. Hero. Over here, a really wimpy, scrawny dude walks into the bank and notices what happens, rushes up there, tackles the guy. Hero. Just because one can easily overpower that person doesn't mean it's any less of a heroic deed than the person that is weak. Yes, you could probably say, my gosh, I can't believe he was able to tackle that guy, but it still doesn't take away from what this guy did. Like how the first North God Kalman reformed Demon King Etov. They change it every single time. Defeated, charmed, cursed, reformed. Everybody thinks that something different happened to Etov. Like how the second North God Kalman slew terrible enemies beyond mortal comprehension. Like how Quagmire Rudius defeated the third North God Kalman. It's so sad. First North God, achievement. Second North God, achievement. Quagmire Rudius defeated North God Kalman III. Achievement failed. You had to do something that, at first glance, seemed beyond you. That was why he lost to Rudius. This time, he was the champion, and Alec was the Demon King, just like the Demon Kings of history. Interesting way to look at it. These past Demon Kings, I was the one that failed. Alec sneered at the champion and treated his allies like insects. Too proud to unleash his full power, he'd been defeated. Rudius Greyrat was a champion, a hero. Alec couldn't shake the idea that he was a pitiful small-timer, so he underestimated him. He did great things. They'll surely call him a hero in ages to come. I don't know, I think after all this stuff happens, I think they'll still probably, if people know about him, they'll probably freak out seeing him. But I think after this whole thing happens, I bet Rudius is the type that'll just kind of, he'll just kind of disappear into the town. Like, yeah, you build up all this stuff, fight all this stuff. Okay, everything's good for the future. Go home, relax. And then, again, like I said, somebody might know who he is and freak out when they see him, but most people are not going to recognize him. Rudius doesn't want to be a hero. He doesn't want to be recognized. He just wants to have a normal life. Alec got it wrong. Should have gone all out and crushed them from the get-go if he wanted to stand a chance. Alec was a fool, thinking he would knock off Rudius without trying, thinking the next battle was the real one. He should have known. Ever since he was a child, Alec heard the story over and over again of the Demon King who lost making exactly this mistake. How could he forget something so simple? He wanted to go back and punch himself. He was wrong, and that's how he ended up paralyzed in this place. Was he going to die? Maybe because he had a lot of his grandmother's blood. He was tough. He was not so easily destroyed, not even buried in the ground like this. Only, unlike his grandmother, he wasn't immortal. If he stayed paralyzed like this, he'd eventually die, either from starvation or something else. He supposed this was how it ends for a reckless fool. I don't want to die. It's well enough to die when you were defeated. He could accept it. That's the nature of battle. He tried to always accept his death, but only after he'd fought with everything he had. He hadn't done that. He hadn't been serious. That wouldn't happen next time. Next time, he wouldn't hold back. He'd fight with his full strength from the start to the finish. He'd do his utmost in every battle, like a champion, like a hero, like a man worthy of the name of the North God Kalman. He swore it on his sword. The gods, his grandmother, the great first North God Kalman. He swore it on his sword, the gods, his grandmother, and not the second, not his father, the great first North God Kalman. Hey, let me finish it. Someone please find a way to give me another chance.
Hey there.
Just, it's so gonna happen. It's so gonna happen. Even as he kept wishing that, over and over again, he felt his consciousness fading. And that is volume 25. Let me look at this again. Yes, the thing that sticks out the most in this ending part right here is calling out, swearing out to the first North God Calman and not his father. And again, I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that he read it wrong. He read all this wrong, and now he realized the same thing that his father did. That the first North God Calman, my grandfather, was the hero. I am not a hero. I wasn't being a hero. And the feats that my father did apparently weren't heroic. I'm realizing now that I failed miserably, and I want another shot. That's the sucky thing about this whole thing, is like, I didn't mind the idea of Alec dying, because I just didn't really care about him. He's this guy that wants to kill anything in order to be great. I'm not going to cry for that. But here, like, it does actually show how he got that wrong mindset. And again, I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that he's seen the same thing his father did at some point, and he just didn't correct course like his father did. His father correct course. He didn't. He did the same thing his father did, but he did not correct course. And it's not until he's beat down and pulverized into the wall and seemingly buried in that wall with this weapon literally that's pretty much made of earth magic has wedged him in there. So he's basically buried alive, it seems like. I thought that it was a case of that he just literally splattered him into mist and there was not a body left behind, but I guess Rudy just didn't want to check. But again, I think it implied the idea that his weapon, the Gatling gun, was shoved into the wall and slamming into him with the magic, and then he just it broke off and it left behind. So all you could probably see is just maybe, the hands maybe sticking out and it drops the weapon or whatever. But anyways, that aside. It's not until he's like literally pulverized in the wall and realizing how he failed, what he did wrong, and suddenly, I want another shot. I want another chance. I realize where I was wrong. If I can get another chance, I'll do it with full power. And yes, realizing what a true hero is. Because Rudius showed him what a true hero is. Somebody that stands up against something that he's not supposed to. Rudius showed him heroism. Showed him bravery. I would rather call it bravery. It's not really, again, I don't think it's heroism. It's a heroic feat, you may call it. Especially since a lot of the reason why Rudius is doing what he's doing is because he wants to save the Superds. And so right there you can see an aspect of heroism. He's doing it for somebody. Even though the end goal is for himself, this is a path in it, and he does care about Rejerd and his people. So he is doing an act of heroism here, preventing this from continuing on. Seeing that heroism, now he realized what a true champion is, what a true hero is, and now he wants to do that same thing. I want to do right next time. I want to fight with all my strength and become a hero, but I need another shot. Now, master question mark here is, do I think he is dead? Usually the falling into underconsciousness, fading, that typically is an aspect of death. That could also be just losing consciousness. And, if you get saved fast enough, your brain doesn't, cease to get blood to it, eventually you can, recover. It's obviously implying that at least because he has grandmother blood, he's able to survive more than what most people would. But he's not immortal. Confirming here, you don't have enough blood to be immortal. You have enough to be durable, but not immortal. So the question is, who could save him if there was a possibility? Because yes, the assumption is that right here, what's going on is this would be about the point that either Rudius just goes up to the surface and then starts to grab the guys and starts to take them back to the camp, and he's thinking about this right here. He may have lost consciousness and then regained it, and this is during the time where Rudius and them are partying over at the coastline. There's a chance. I don't think Sander knows. I don't think anybody around Sander would have done it. I think if Ettoff did anything, she would have told Sander. I don't know of anybody that would go down there and save him. The only possibility is by some odd chance, Orsted goes down there and wants to spare him because he believes that he can be helpful. But every loop, he has to fight him. He's not going to save him. Orsted would be going down there, helping him out, and then he'd have to fight him. Orsted has no reason to help him. I don't see anybody that would go down there to save him. I think unless Ettoff at some point goes wandering over there, he's dead. I just can't think of anybody willing to go down there unless guided by the man god, which we've already have all the disciples selected here. Nobody's going to go down there and save his butt. Which sucks because I don't like the idea of somebody realizing the faults of their ways and wanting to reform themselves at the brink of death. Because unless you are belief of rebirth and having some other chance there, it kind of sucks. So, but rip Alec. We had to go back and see him one last time before he croaks. It's totally like the shonen trope where like you're having the match against them and then suddenly they have to like info dump their entire life story so that you feel bad they lose the game. Like we have to finally give the backstory before they kill them off in the story. This is afterwards though. The next episode tells you the backstory. They're still dead, by the way. And that is volume 25. That is it. That is it for volume 25. What a volume. What a volume. We're finally done through this one. And I, to be honest, didn't really spend too much time pre-cooking on what I would actually place this in my tier list. We pretty much started things off with Rudius in the ravine. Good old Doga boy saving Rudius. I love every single scene with Doga. He was a good boy. The big reveal around Doga. Obviously getting into the reveal around Sander. To be truthful, the whole thing about getting Rudius out of the ravine, there's a massive question mark there around like the origins of the ravine and the water and all that kind of stuff, which I don't know that we'll ever answer. We're getting to that point now. Like, honestly, with this end of this volume, I've been building up for a while now, by the way, for like maybe the last like 4 volumes or not, whatnot. I've been building up for a while now, and I think it's pretty much cemented in my brain. I don't think I'm going to get a lot of what I was hoping this series would be. Now, it could be in all the side stuff. It could be on maybe possibly something else that Refugien is cooking on the side that he just hasn't gotten around to yet, and everybody else is waiting just along with me. I just have a lot that I was expecting of this series that I'm expecting at this point with only 1 volume left. And it's not a beefy, thick volume. I don't think I'm going to get a lot of what I wanted. That's kind of got me very scared at this point. I've heard some people say that, yeah, I think I know what you're talking about, because I've been pretty vague with it. I think I know what you're talking about, and I kind of had that feeling too, but it was a satisfying end. Like, it was a good end. So I'm expecting I'm probably going to get a lot of the stuff that I'm hoping gets answered won't get answered, but I'm going to enjoy the ending. I expect that. I trust a lot of people that expect that it's going to be a good ending, but I'm getting that anxiety at this point. Like, this is going to suck, isn't it? Not suck, it's just not going to be good. Like, I'm just going to be like, no, I wanted more of this. I wanted more of this. I wanted answers to this, and I'm just not going to get any of it. But anyways, so yeah, at this point, like, I'm going through this stuff and I'm thinking of like, yeah, the whole thing with the ravine and the water and that all. Yeah, I don't think we're going to answer that whole stuff. What else? I do know that whenever I do start kind of cooking into something and suddenly everybody in the chat starts to actually talk, because the usual people that know not to spoil things, the usual people that keep their mouths shut whenever I'm speculating about stuff that has been answered suddenly start talking. I'm like, I guess that hasn't been answered. I guess that was left to speculation. I do like that things aren't 100% answered. I mean, I'm fine with things not being 100% answered. That's perfectly fine with me. But anyways, as I was saying, ravine, getting out of there, the Sander reveal, cool guy. We had the face off against everybody. Edis fighting Gal was super good. I love the fight itself, mostly, of course, in the idea of the downfall of Galfalion, which I think is extremely tragic. And I was really upset about that whole situation. Going right into the fight with Alec, everybody fighting against Alec, bringing in the armor. Etop showing up, being epic, was great. Beating Alec, achieving one of the 7 great powers, or at least Roxy has. Roxy gets on the 7 great powers. Getting into Petagoose and what happened with him and Laplace, which was really cool as well. Some really great moments of Edis coming back and all that kind of stuff. Being a kid again. Getting into, again, the armor, Badigadi going over there, all that stuff. And then Alec dying. I will admit, this volume, I like the fights a lot. I really do. And there's a lot of little sprinkled tidbits in here that I love digging into with this volume. Obviously, I think this was a lot more parts in this volume than typically for what we got into. I've always liked Refugien for his ability to make fights where it's not just about swinging swords and bumping heads. It's always about telling a story, and they did, as usual, a great job of telling stories within all this stuff. And having some of these great moments within it with characters just standing out and doing incredible stuff. Refugien is great at that. He's really good at having battles not be the ends of just fighting. It's about characters. It's about conflict within, especially with Galfalion. That was incredible. But other than that, I don't know. I had a lot of frustration with the volume. I do have to admit there's a lot of frustrations here. A lot of it's towards the end. I just really didn't like a lot of stuff around Badigadi, but that's been something I've been struggling with personally for a long time is understanding Badigadi. I understand Geese. I understand pretty much everybody else. I had my frustrations around them pulling Reserved back in here recently, but for the most part, I understand these characters. Badigadi is a struggle for me, and I'm hoping something comes of that. I still am. But other than that, I don't know. I'm thinking B plus. That might upset people. I was thinking A minus, but I'm thinking B plus. I had some good moments in this volume. I don't know. I'm not a battle person. I'm not a conflict person. I'm a character person. So this does feel like one of the weaker volumes for character for me overall because it was so focused on this battle. Maybe I'll go A minus. Maybe A minus. It had some pretty great moments, some pretty hype moments. I'll go A minus. I don't know. I go A minus. I'm pretty sure most people would probably agree with like an A or something like that. I'm sure there's tons of S's in the chat. Again, this is tier listing it amongst each other of the volumes. They're all S tier, but we're trying to give a sense of between the volumes. I might switch it to B plus later on, but I think I'm going to sit at A minus now. Once I rethink about it, I might change my mind, but A minus. It's been decided. There you go. But that said, that's it for this Mushoku Monday. That's it for volume 25. It's taken so long, but we've gotten through it. I don't think I checked the other art in here. I think I seen a picture of Gal because somebody was trying to get me a picture of Gal for the emote, but I haven't actually looked at looks like them standing across the ravine from each other before Alec does something stupid. This was the moment before Alec did something stupid. The epic moment where everybody's facing off against each other, and then Alec does something stupid. I don't know. It's got like a shot in the back with Zenoba, Sander, and Doga just being like hanging out. They're just totally ignoring that we're gonna have a fight. Cool stuff though. Cool pick. I kind of would like this cleaned. This would be a good image cleaned. Did they ever release them cleaned? If somebody can get that image of them across the ravine from each other clean, that'd be great. We'll see. I know that somebody does like a lot of the covers clean, but anyways, I don't think I checked the back for like the other images. I think there was a picture in there of, yeah, Marta. Dude, Marta back here looks thick. Marta thick. And there's more. Marta looking thick, boy. I guess Ogre makes sense. There's Alec looking like a dork. Alec's a dork. Sword God, Galfalion, Rip. That's interesting. Windpipe. Doga. Sander looks weird. These characters all look kind of scrunched down. Travel outfit, Norn. And oh, look, there's Aisha, who hasn't even been in this volume. It's like, why do we have a picture of Aisha that she's not in the volume? It's like the artist is like, I just want to draw a picture of Aisha. I don't really care. Bangs and hair a little longer. I guess it's showing her kind of growing up a little bit. I don't know. She looks way young here. This Aisha looks way younger than we've seen Aisha. So I don't know what this picture's here for. Character design concepts, I guess. This is just random images, maybe. They decided to put into here. There's little Lucy. Little Lucy being cute. What else? Oh, this is the scroll veneer. Scroll with belt. Scrolls come out and go through the whole 5-button operation scroll. Okay, this is a lot smaller than Rudius was actually describing. See, this is where I was having my problem with how much bulk he was going to have. This makes sense why the images were showing Rudius with this cloak and it covering all that veneer and everything. Because the way that he was describing these scrolls is it made him out like they're big. They're big scrolls. These are small scrolls. This is not a massive scroll. Like, it made it out like these were bulk, and it made them look so big. These are small. Come on. I don't know. I'm gonna have to go back and recheck. I'm pretty sure the way they described those scrolls, they were much bigger than that. I'm sorry. I was thinking basically the size that it would have to be for you to stand on it. Like, we were making teleportation scrolls out of this stuff, and it was talking about the armor coming down on top of it and crushing it. Like, he was talking about like how he was having to carry multiples, and it was like too much to carry. I don't know. Maybe I'm misremembering. It looks like dorky jetpack. We're going back to the whole thing where why are we making things look like something's out of sci-fi? Come on, stop being cheesy. I bet some people think it's super edgy and cool. I'm a dork. I'm sorry. Anyways, that's it. That's volume 25. I hope you guys enjoyed this Mushoku Monday. As always, again, I appreciate you guys' support, your kind words, all the things you guys do for me. It means a great deal to me. And yes, as per usual, greatly appreciate it. Support channel monetarily to Patreon, tips, links, super thanks, memberships, all that stuff. It's you guys that keeps this stuff going. But until next week, until the next Mushoku Monday, going into the final volume of Mushoku Tensei, the final numeric number volume of Mushoku Tensei, I want to reiterate, we're going to do everything else. We're going to do the side chapters. We're going to do all the ODTs. We're going to do all the stuff. The Roxy gets serious. We're going to do it all. But for the main lines, for next week, the last volume, until the next Mushoku Monday, y'all take care. Oh my gosh. Happy Mushoku Mondays, everybody. Welcome back. I can't leave this up here. It's going to have a big glare on my face. Andrew, focus. Happy Mushoku Mondays. Like, oh, I'm going to go out and defeat the demon core. She said that she got, but
Life is a what? Life is one of.
And took the ogres hostage.
It was true. It was true that they had a long fight.
Yeah. Only what the man god says. Only what the man god says is his weak points, words. Catch my meaning? Yeah. Only the man god. Yeah. Only what the man god says is his weak points. His weak points is words. His weak points is words. But I reckon I've gathered a good. I gather a good force. I've gathered a good as good of a force.